for years and years and years, people like dog chow was just whatever. You have your dog kibble and, done deal. But then people started examining what is actually in that food.
The raw diet has become the biggest trend, feeding raw or partially cooked, lightly cooked foods, which is much more natural to a dog's gut or a cat's gut. I mean, their microbiome it's more healthy for them that way. They have ingredients that you can see in the coat. I mean, in the sense of when they eat it, they actually assimilate some of the food and they can, and you tell your dog's stool doesn't smell as much or their breath isn't as bad. There's so many things that you can do for your dog that you would do for yourself as a human, right? We can do things that same way.
So me and my family have been avid dog lovers for many, many years. We've had 2 sets of dogs, and my wife, who I tried to convince to do this podcast, but she won't, is absolutely obsessed with dog nutrition and is obsessed with what we can feed our dogs to make them last long, to be healthy, to basically just extend the lifespan of our dog and have them just be the happiest dogs ever. The dogs are in studio. I hope they might make a cameo later on. So with me today is Alexis Butler from Dogs Meow.
Right.
And you've been around a long time doing what you do.
Long time, almost 29 years.
Yeah. So describe how you started your business. It's a pretty cool story.
It goes back to going back to where I was from outside of Chicago, to a reunion, and we went to a town that I used to frequent when I was younger, Long Grove, Illinois, and they had a store there called the Dog House. And when I went through town, I said to my friend, "Oh my gosh, this store is still here. It's been here forever." I said, "We have nothing like this in Utah." And prior to this, I've always kind of wanted to have something of my own as a business. So I said, "Oh gosh, I should think of this in Utah." So I came back to Utah after that trip, and I called my brother and I said, "I want to have this idea. I'd like to start this store, and I have, like, I don't know if it should be the barking cat. I don't know what it should be." But he said, "Well, how about the Dogs Meow?" I said, "Oh, I like that." Okay, so from there I went and registered it with the state, but I had no idea what I was doing. Didn't have the internet. We didn't have any kind of access. I didn't know what I was doing. I was working for somebody else. Anyway.
Do you have a business background?
I worked at banks. I worked as a purchasing agent for a medical company, and I was in sales, and I worked in retail. So no, but I had a little bit of everything. So I thought, well, if you can do it, why can't I? If somebody's starting a business, why can't I do it? And I really started it to have a job, not to have a business. It was to have a job. I didn't want to work for somebody else. I didn't feel like I was appreciated for what I could do and how much I did for people, and you weren't getting paid. I thought, I don't know what it's like to be a store owner or a business owner, but I can do it if somebody else can do it. So basically, my name sat there with no store for a long time. I was driving down 33rd. I saw a space that said for lease, and I said, I'm going to inquire. I just thought, jump. So I inquired, and it was at the time like $800 a month. I said, wow, this is stretching it, but I'm going to do it. I had no money in the bank. Let's just give it a go.
No money?
No, I had to take money out against my house as a mortgage.
Oh, yeah.
And so I took an
As
extended
many business owners
right
have to
as
do.
a loan. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, this is how we're going to start. So I think I had $6,000 in the bank when I started. And then I took a loan for like $30,000. I mean, I'm getting detail, but it was a small amount. I just figured, well, when the doors open, I'll make money and we'll go from there, right? Well, as all business owners will tell you, that's not how business works. You don't open the doors and all of a sudden you're making money and rich, right? It's quite the opposite. So anyway, I opened it with the intent to have an artist kind of atmosphere where artisans' products related to breed specific, dog specific, cat specific, book specific to that, with specialty treats, some supplements. It was more of a boutique store. And then at 6 months, I said, I'll be closed. I can't do this. I have to look at food. and I've always been our family's always been kind of conscientious about being healthy and health food and like that. We didn't have any choices like that in Utah. And so I started to look into better foods. And
So you started carrying just the basic foods?
No, I
They
went and
were
searched out, like,
they were all
Solid Gold would be one of them that would be a holistic brand. Back in the day, it started in the 70s. It wasn't accessible everywhere. Certainly you couldn't get
but
it online.
none of the big brand
No,
name dog
none.
kibbles.
I
You wouldn't
refused to
carry any of that.
carry any brand names that were grocery store or in veterinarian clinics. But, I mean, I couldn't carry those. But I stuck to my guns about what I was going to carry and
Yeah.
made sure it was wholesome and healthy, the best I could do at the time. And I would get shipments direct, 2,000 pounds direct on a truck that'd drop off. And I was the only one at the store, so I'd unload it. And then I'd pay the guys $20. Can you help me unload this truck? Because they wouldn't unload it. Anyway, so that's kind of how it started. So it evolved from mostly artisan products with kind of accessories for dogs that were unique. Mostly I tried to do handmade or made locally, not, out of the country. And then I went to, now I'm flipped. Now I'm mostly food, supplements with a smaller section of the specialty accessories. So that's what really keeps me afloat is just the volume of food I carry and offer.
Did you feel at that time, like back, close to 30 years ago, the sort of really high-end specialty food, that wasn't such a thing back then as it is today? Did you see that dog nutrition and what people were willing to invest in their dog food would become a thing? Did you have the foresight to see that, or would?
No. So I didn't, I just knew, no, I did not see that there was going to be a huge future in this industry. And it went crazy. And ironically, at the time, a lot of businesses, whether it be like the Rough Wares or the West Paws, they were locally made here in the United States at the time. And one still is West Paw. But a lot of those companies started the year I did. So
Really?
we all kind of started, and some of the healthier foods started. So it was a trend. So it was almost like I had a sixth sense that this would be a trend, without knowing it's going to be a trend. It did, I will say, in the state of Utah, it did take a while to establish myself in what we did. We had a lot of pushback from veterinarians of what we were doing and what we were carrying, and that it wasn't on their list of foods that they would offer or suggest. And so we got a lot of pushback for years.
Pushback because it's not science diet?
Kind
Because
of.
that's usually the
I mean,
veterinarian
we did
dog
have
food
customers come
type
in
food.
like almost crying, saying, my vet said that what I'm feeding is not good and it could kill my dog because it's not really, based on scientific whatever. I don't know. I don't remember back in the day, 28 years ago, what was exactly said. But we had multiple customers come in upset that they didn't know what to do because they were trying to do good for their dog, but their veterinarian was telling them kind of they weren't doing good for their dog and what they were feeding. So we worked through that. We talked to customers, and we worked through it, and they had their own choices to make. But yeah.
Well, it's kind of interesting that for years and years and years, people like dog chow was just whatever. Do you have your dog kibble and done deal. But then people started examining what is actually in that food, and then you look at the dog's stool. That might not be your favorite thing to do, but it is completely different with the dogs that eat dog chow compared to the dogs that eat good food. It's a lot smaller too. This looks completely different. And then you realize probably as Whole Foods was coming about 30 years ago, about the same time, if you're concerned about health, you should be concerned about the food you're eating. What is the difference between something like dog chow and what you are offering in your store?
Well, a lot of the lesser quality brands have more of fillers in them, like more corn and wheat. Their protein is not coming from a good source of meat. It might be a meat byproduct, which you don't know what it is if it says a meat byproduct. A lot of the foods that we carry have more ingredients that you can read and understand. Weight is always how it's listed on a label, the weight of a product. So chicken meal or whatever, however it goes down, chicken, it goes down in weight like that. Peas, legumes, oats, barley. They do have oats, barley, but the makeup is
But the filler and the protein are really the key components to
yeah,
what
and
make
like you
the.
said about stool, I mean, when you look at I can go to a park and I can tell you somebody's feeding a kibble that's got a red dye in it, and something else and it's high volume because
Hmm.
it's not digestible. It's basically just leaving out of their system. Usually their coats are dry and not very healthy. Um, and a lot of times these higher end foods, which don't always equal higher cost, which is deceiving. Just because it's a higher end doesn't always mean it's costs more. But they have ingredients that you can see in the coat. I mean, in the sense of when they eat it, they actually assimilate some of the food and they can, and you tell your dog's stool doesn't smell as much or their breath isn't as bad. There's so many things that you can do for your dog that you would do for yourself as a human, right? We can do things that same way. We can add supplements that help,
Yeah.
fish oils and stuff like that. So is kibble itself the best? I think it is. I think it is. It makes the most sense to most people because it's convenient. The raw diet has become the biggest trend, feeding raw or partially cooked, lightly cooked foods, which is much more natural to a dog's gut or a cat's gut. I mean, their microbiome it's more healthy for them that way.
Hmm.
Um, but kibble has its place, and it's the majority of what we sell. And there are a lot of good choices out there. The problem is now there's so many choices. You really have to pay attention to what you're bringing in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can't have everything.
And so when you getting back to when you initially started and getting that sort of initial buy-in from enough customers to make your store viable, what were the key components to make that work for you?
For me, it was just what I carried, and it was word of mouth.
Hmm.
I I can't say it was anything other than word of mouth. It was a struggle. I struggled for at least 5 to 7 years of trying to figure out the environment and how I'm gonna, how I'm gonna make this work. A lot of my distributors, we didn't even have distributors in the state of Utah that carried what I was wanting to carry, and so I had to go direct. So a lot of these
Hmm.
companies I went direct and had semis pull up and we unloaded. And then distributors started to see. We had a store open. I was the first in the state of Utah that did what I do, and then about 2.5 years later, another store opened up, um, and it was the two of us for a really long time, and then others came in. So yeah, I've just lost my train of thought where
Well,
we're
I
going with that, but
I think that what I noticed when I walked in your store on a few occasions, was we're looking for pet stories. We've done pet stories over the years in Utah Stories magazine, and I'm like interested in the Tanner Park Trail. What's going to happen with this? It was all kind of up in our, everybody was like, oh, let's not have dogs
mm-hmm.
anymore. And then one lady came in, or you told me about a woman who was leading the effort to get more people to pick up after their dogs so that they could have a dog friendly area and continue the dog off leash area. And it seems like your store has really become a community gathering
Mm-hmm.
place for people who are passionate about their dogs and are part of that dog lover community. Did you create that on purpose, or did it just become that way?
I think it evolved. I think what you don't realize, like I said, I started this as a job. I wanted a job. I was a single mom. I had a 10-year-old at the time, and I just wanted to I wanted to do something that made me happy, and then that I could give others the opportunity to learn from what I'm learning and bringing in. But the community was a bonus because I had no idea that my people that support my store and support the health of animals and animal welfare is so strong, and that we have such a strong community that is so wonderful to be a part of. I feel like I'm a part of their community more than I've created that community, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel blessed that I'm able to be a part of that and have that. I've always wanted to have communal things in the store, like functions and events, and I haven't been able to really do that because my store isn't big enough to do that. And recently we opened a dog wash, and I gave it space for that. So we have four in Mill Creek. We have four washes, self serves, and then I made the open space in the front for us to have communal things like a pet psychic once a month, or the Basset Rescue coming in, or Cause, one of the nonprofits, to showcase their animals up for adoption. And that makes me feel good that I can finally, at 29 years, be able to do that and have people be able to use my space for that fundraising. So
yeah, that's
I really
very
like
cool.
that. Yeah.
Was it hard to make the leap to Draper? Like the
Yes.
environment in Mill Creek compared to Draper is quite different. What were the challenges you ran into with that expansion and that new sort of demographic that you needed to attract in Draper?
I wasn't ready for it. I didn't know how to do a second store. I just did it based on friends that lived out more in that area that said, hey, we have nothing like that out here. I kind of leaped. Everything in my life is kind of a leap. I do it and figure it out as I go. And I did. And it almost failed. I almost had to shut the doors. Back in, was it 7, when we had the melamine scare, 2007? Everybody started researching their dogs' food, and because they were getting ill, and it was over 1,000 dogs that died. That's kind of put me on the map. And so in Draper, but it was a different demographics than the Salt Lake area.
That puts
And
you on the map, how?
it put us on the map because people started looking more closely at what they were feeding.
Oh, got
And
it.
the foods
Like
that
they became more particular
more
about the
aware.
ingredients in the dog food at that
Yeah,
time.
because the foods that I carried weren't a part of the melamine recall, or the food that was killing animals. And so people started to research and do homework. And by that time, there was the internet, right? The internet. So,
Yeah. And
so it was a struggle for years and years and years to have that Draper store. And I thought I shouldn't have done it. And now I'm still there, and it's been since '03. I mean, since, yeah, '03.
and you bounce between two stores.
I don't anymore. I have a great staff, super great staff. And they look after it for me.
Nice.
So yeah, no, I'm really proud of them, and this store does well. I'm happy to be in that community now, and a part of it. We did move our store from the original location. Now it's on 123rd or 123rd South, in Draper. So we moved it probably less than 10 years ago. Again, anytime you make a move, it kind of throws you backwards. But we're
But
happy
you
to be
stuck
where
in
we
there
are.
to
Yeah,
yeah,
in
you
there. So yeah, we have 2 stores, and that's where we want to be.
and it's obvious that your concept, you're the first one to start it in Utah, of high-end specialty dog food and supplements and treats. My wife buys your chicken necks for my dog, who loves chicken necks. Who knows why? But she loves your really high protein kibble, and it's like that has now really blossomed into a huge industry, and you have a lot of competition, and a lot of the competition is corporate and not from Utah. And then you also have like Chewy, which is a website online. How do you still distinguish yourself from the competition?
Kind of curating what we carry, our staff's knowledge, knowing our customers' names. Oh, there we have
Oh,
that.
there we go. There's Scamps. Yeah. You're not supposed to come on yet, Scamps.
We didn't call
She
you out.
always barks, but yeah, what can you do? She's the protector.
Yeah. So we have, buyer programs and loyalty points. We're not more expensive than people think online buying is. People think you get a better deal online buying, and that's not necessarily 100% true.
Mm-hmm.
After most brands, after 12 bags, you get a 13th free. People really enjoy getting their 13th bag free. I always say, okay, go have lunch on your dog or go get a pedicure or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You just got your free bag of food. But we carry raw, a lot of raw, and we have a lot of supplement choices. So I just think the local environment, the community feel, the family that I've created in our customers and our staff, that family vibe, I just think that's really important. And I think that's what separates us. And, I respect what people need to do. But I think they should look local to see how beneficial it really could be to support local and come into any local store, no matter what industry.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now the toughest question. What's it better to have, a dog or a cat? What do you like better, dogs or cats?
I actually like them both, and I have both.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. So
You don't have a preference?
I don't have well, the cat doesn't really like to go on a hike with you, right? But a dog will go with you on a walk or hike. So that's cool. But I've always had cats that are very dog-like. So they were always right in the mix of the dogs. So they were always cool and chill. So my cat world has always been pretty cool. We have most customers of both in our store.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say the majority of the customers come in are looking for dog specific.
Yeah, it's interesting. High-end dog food is more popular than high-end cat food, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It feels that way.
Yeah, I think probably. Do you think it has to do with the longevity of cats is quite a bit greater than dogs? It seems like everybody wants their dog to live longer, and I mean, I'm sure everybody wants their cat to live longer, but cats can live.
No, that's a really good question, because really, why is it that we have dog people come by really high-end dog food, and then I'll go throw the bag of food in their trunk and I see a lesser grade cat food in their trunk, which is for their cat.
Mm-hmm.
Not always. Some people feed feral cats, but it is interesting, and it would be an interesting question. We have people that go crazy over feeding their cats.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
sure.
that they're out there. We have raw feeders that feed their cat raw because it's natural to them. They're not omnivores, like a dog. So they're looking for the best raw or highest protein kibble with the least amount of carbs they can find. So, no, we've got them.
Yeah.
We've got them. But
yeah, cats are. It's cats are, as far as I know, they have such drastically different personalities. Some are just like little whack jobs, and they don't want to see anybody, and you try to pet them and they'll claw you.
Yeah.
And or if you start petting them, you better pet them the right way, or they're gonna just freaking go nuts. Now we had I guess say that because my neighbor's cat was just like that, and we had to watch him a few times. But dogs, man, dogs just love you.
Friendly, wagging their tail.
Man, my dogs.
I want to be with you.
Yeah, Joey, come here. Joey, can he get up? So I just want to show our 10-year-old Irish setter because he's super healthy and doing awesome. Hey guys, this is Joey. Yeah, that's Joey. She knows he loves everybody. Scamps is our golden retriever. Hi. Who's kind of has to decide if she likes a person. She kind of deliberates for a few visits before she decides. But you're petting her right now, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she
knows.
hide.
You know.
Yeah, but we just love our dogs, and they really become a part of your family, and
that's the key. I mean, really, they are a part of your family, and they shouldn't be treated any differently than you would want to be. Well, actually, okay, let me back up a minute. Most people say that their dog and cats eat better than they do.
Yeah,
I get
ours
that.
does.
We get that all.
We have a lot of people who come over and see how our dogs are fed, and a former editor said, "Golda, if I could just be one of your dogs, can I be one of your?" so he could be fed as good as they are, because she bends over backwards to cook every one of their meals and get these custom incredible foods when we go on road trips when she can't cook all of their meals.
Customers always say, "I wish I come back as my dog."
Yeah,
they know how they treat them. So
yeah, well, I think it's awesome what you do. You've really got an awesome store. It's always fun to go in there. Yeah, and I think everybody should be buying their pet food locally and finding a supplier who pays attention to the nutrition, the ingredients that helps you for your particular dog or cat, because I think that's really important. And so way to go, staying in business 29
Thank you.
years. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was a long time job I created.
Yeah. And so your daughter helps you part-time too, and you have some other long-time
Great
staff.
staff. Yep.
That's
yeah,
great.
we've had staff as long as 5 years. I had a gal work for me for 17 years. People might remember with Marge, but yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So.
And what are the 2 locations addresses again?
2047 East and 3300 South is in Mill Creek. And then we have 123rd South and 866 East in Draper. Those are the 2 locations.
And you have a website.
You can order online. Not everything's online, but you can order for pickup. Some people like that, and then they just send somebody in to get the food for them. So,
cool.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, thanks so much for coming on, Alexis.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Good talking to you.
Yeah, good talking to you. And so go visit Alexis and check out the amazing selection of dog treats, dog food. If you want to support Utah Stories, consider becoming a subscriber or member. It's $5 a month, and you support this show, you support our content, and you support our mission, which is to be the voice of local Utah, support and help local businesses grow and flourish. And because really local businesses make up the local community and the tapestry of our communities. So it's really important to find the best of local Utah. That's what we consider this to be, a best of local Utah guide. So if you become a member or a subscriber, you get this. And also Faces of Utah magazine is our new magazine we launched, which has a lot of awesome local businesses from Moab to Salt Lake City to Park City, stories about Coach Whittingham and leaders and how to be a great business leader. So you'll get this as a bonus if you become a member of Utah Stories, and you can learn how to be a bigger part of the community. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.